What we're learning today is from Likutei Sichos Chelek Yud Gimel, the 13th volume of the Rebbe Sichos, the parasha of Bamidbar, the second sicha on this week's parasha. If you have the Gutnik Chumash, it's on page 860. In the book of Bamidbar, it is Perek Gimel, chapter 3, and we're going to be looking at. Sorry, one sec. Okay, there we go. We're going to be looking at, we'll start at Pasuk Hey. Let's do that. We'll start at Pasuk Hey. Okay. Today's going to be a little different. Instead of analyzing an individual Rashi, we're actually going to land up analyzing a few different Rashis in context. So they're all close together and they're on a similar theme. And we'll do a full analysis of these Rashis. Okay. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, do you see that? It's Pasuk Hey. Verse number 5, chapter number 3. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Hakreves Matei Levi, bring close the tribe of Levi. Vahamadato oisoi lifnei Aaron HaKohen. And stand them, even though it's said in the singular, it's referring to the tribe, that's why it's in singular. So stand the tribe of Levi, lifnei Aaron HaKohen, in front of Aaron the Kohen, ve'sher su oisoi, and they will serve him. Okay, that's what it means. They will serve him. So what are they going to do? Next pasuk. Ve'shamru es mishmartoi. They will guard his guarding. Ve'es mishmeres kol ha'eda. And the guarding of the whole people. Lifnei Ohel Moed. In front of Ohel Moed obviously referring to the Mishkan. So that's what they're going to do. Lavoid es avodas ha-Mishkan. They will do the work, the service of the Mishkan. Next pasuk, Ches. Ve'shamru es kol kelei Ohel Moed. And they will then also have to look after, translated as that, all the vessels of the Mishkan, the es mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, and the guarding of the Jewish people, la avoid es avodas ha-Mishkan, to do the service of the Mishkan. Okay, we're going to stop there for now, even though we're not finished. There are other psukim that we have to look at as well, but that's what we're going to do for now. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at Rashi on Pasuk Vav. Right? Pasuk Vav, that was the Pasuk where Hashem said, bring the people close and let them stand in front of Aaron HaKohen to serve him. Okay, so let's see what it says. V'sherusu oisoi, they will serve him. Umahu hasherus, what is the service that they have to do? V'shamru es mishmartoi, they have to guard its guarding, the guarding of the Mishkan, ostensibly. That's what it looks like. They've got to guard the guarding of the Mishkan. The fish shmiras hamikdash alav shelo yikrav zar, because Aaron has the responsibility to ensure that no zar, no non-kohen, comes into the Mishkan. Kamoy shenemar, like it will say later on, ato uvonecho veisavicha itcha tis'u es avoin hamikdash. You and your whole father's home, you will carry the sins of the Beis HaMikdash, of the Mishkan. In other words, if you, the Kohanim, if you, Aaron, and your family, if you don't guard the Mishkan, and something goes wrong, and somebody comes into the Mishkan when they shouldn't, you're going to carry that responsibility. V'haleviim halolu mesayin oisom. The Leviim are going to help them. That's what this pasuk is telling us. That Aaron and his family are responsible to ensure that the Jews don't accidentally come into the Mishkan when they should not, which is, they shouldn't. It's only a Kohen on duty who's allowed in the Mishkan. So it's his responsibility to make sure the Jews don't come in. But the Leviim are going to be the ones to assist them. That's the word he uses over here. Mesayin oisam. Right? The Leviim are going to assist them. Zoi hi hasherus, that is the service that they will perform. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the next one. Let's have a look at the next Rashi. Next Rashi. V'shomro es mishmartoi. On the next verse, the next pasuk, V'shomeres mishmarta, what do the Leviim have to do? They have to guard its guarding. Okay, this is not rocket science. I think everybody knows that the word shmira, shoimer, shomar, or any other variation on the theme means to guard. That's what it means. It means to guard. What does Rashi say? Kol minoi sheha'adam memune alav umutal alav la'asoisoi, any appointment where a person is appointed to a particular role and is given the responsibility of that role, karoi mishmeres b'chol amikra v'l'shoina mishnah, that is called mishmeres. Hang on a second. We just said that the word shoimer, shmira, mishmeres is what? To guard. What does Rashi straight away say? It's the most normal thing in the world to call, in Torah literature, to call an appointment mishmeres. And he brings a proof. There, the Midrash tells us that there was this debate going on between Bigsan and Seresh, who wanted to assassinate Achashverosh, and when they talk about their roles, they call it mishmeres. And likewise, over here in this pasuk, when we talk about the roles and responsibilities of the Kohanim and of the Leviim, we call them mishmeros. So, first question. Question number 1 on Rashi. Why? Why do you have to take the word mishmeres out of its direct, obvious translation, which is guarding, and now add a different translation that it means appointment? Why? What's wrong with the pshat? When you read that pasuk and it said V'shomer es mishmartoi, that they have to guard the guarding of the Mishkan, you didn't have an issue with it. That's what the Leviim do, right? They guard the Mishkan. Whatever that means, even if it means that they have to guard certain protocols in the Mishkan, and that means they have to do certain jobs. But why does Rashi feel compelled now to take the word mishmeres out of its logical translation, its common translation, and apply a different translation? By the way, just to add to this, question number 2, if you flip back to the first perek in Bamidbar, just for a second, I mean, you don't have to, but if you go back to perek Aleph, pasuk nun gimel, so chapter 1, pasuk 53, in the Gutnik, it's on page 856, what does it say there? That the Leviim should camp around the Mishkan, and there should be no anger from Hashem against the Jews. V'shamru haLevim es mishmeres Mishkan ha'edus. There it is, same words, mishmeres. And there Rashi, what does Rashi say? Have a look, what does Rashi say? Nothing. Nothing. In other words, Rashi did not feel the first time that we were introduced to Leviim in the role called mishmeres, he did not feel the need to tell us, oh, by the way, mishmeres does not mean what you think it means. It actually means something else. It actually means appointment. He didn't feel that. So why suddenly now does Rashi feel compelled to take it outside of its regular translation? So it's a double question. Why doesn't he not accept mishmeres just to mean guarding, and he feels compelled to say it means appointment? And if he does feel that in the context of the Leviim it should mean appointment, then he should have said that the first time the word was used in the context of the Leviim. That's our first 2 questions. Question number 3. What is the role of the Leviim as described in this piece? What is their role? Let's have a look. In order to understand this question, let's have a look at the Rashi on Pasuk Ches. Okay, Pasuk 8 now. Pasuk Ches, what does it say? The Es Mishmeres B'nei Yisrael, the part of what the Leviim have to do is they have to do the service of the Jewish people. Says Rashi, all Jews had a requirement for the Mishkan, right? Every Jew has something that they need done in the Mishkan. They need somebody to bring karbanos for them, they need people to run the place, etc., etc. So by rights, they should be doing it themselves, the Jews. It's just that the Leviim are their representatives. So every single Jew should be in the Mishkan, but practically that's not how it works. So the Leviim represent the Jews. And he continues, therefore the Jews have to pay the Leviim 10% of all their crops called meiser, as a token of gratitude for the fact that the Levim are representing them in the Mishkan. And he brings a proof for that. Shenemar, ki sachar hu lachem chelef avodaschem. That when the Torah tells us about Meiser, it says very clearly, sachar hu lachem. It's a reward for them, chelef avodaschem, in exchange for the work that they're doing. So let me ask you this. In this section over here, who are the Levim working for? Because if you have a look in Pasuk Vav, Rashi says, what's the role of the Levim? To assist the Kohanim. Because the Kohanim are supposed to ensure that nobody trespasses into the Mishkan, and they need help. So the words that he used were, Vahalevim alalu mesayin oisom. The Levim are helping the Kohanim. So it sounds like at that point that the Torah is telling us the role of a Levi is a supportive role to a Kohen. Two psukim later in Pasuk Ches, what does it tell us? The role of a Levi is a supportive role to Yisrael, to the rest of the Jewish population. So which one is it? Are the Levim there as the assistants to the Kohanim, or are the Levim there as the representatives of the whole Jewish nation? Now, in Pasuk Ches, what prompted Rashi to say that it's the whole Jewish nation? Because the verse said it, right? The Pasuk said, Ve'es mishmeres b'nei Yisrael. So that's obviously what prompted him. Okay, that's Pasuk Ches. But look at Pasuk Zayin. What does it say in Pasuk Zayin? Pasuk Zayin, it says, V'shamrus mishmarto ves mishmeres kol ha'eda. All the people. So hang on a second. If Rashi believes that the role of the Levim as defined in Pasuk Ches is that they have to represent Bnei Yisrael, all the Jews, he should have made that comment when it said Kol Ha'eda, one pasuk earlier. Rashi always addresses an issue the first time it pops up. So the first time that we talk about Kol Ha'eda, the whole Jewish people, is in pasuk Zayin. So where would be the logical place for Rashi to say that they represent the whole Jewish people? In pasuk Zayin. So again, it's a double question. Is their role to support the Kohanim as described in Pasuk Vav, or is their role to support the Jews as described in Pasuk Ches? If their role is to support the Jews, why did Rashi wait till Pasuk Ches to tell us? He should have told us this in Pasuk Zayin when it already said Kol Ha'eda, all of the people. Okay, let's quickly recap the first four questions that we have. Question number one, why does Rashi feel compelled to translate the word mishmeres in its non-literal sense and say it means appointment? Question number two, following from that, if Rashi feels that the word mishmeres should be in its non-literal context, he should have made that comment the first time it was used about the Levim, which was already 2 chapters ago. Question number three, there seems to be confusion over here about what the Torah is telling us. Is the Torah telling us, like in Pasuk Vav, that the Levim are there to support the Kohanim? Or is the Torah telling us, like in Pasuk Ches, that the Levim are there to support the Jews, the whole nation? Question 4, if it is actually that they're there to support the whole nation, why didn't Rashi say that when it first mentioned Kol Ha'eda, the whole nation? And by the way, Kol is an inclusive word. It's what we call a riboy. It expands the context. So Kol Ha'eda is actually an even more powerful way of saying everybody than Bnei Yisrael is, actually. Question number 5. Let's go ahead. Let's read a little further. Okay, we're going to skip over Pasuk Yud, and we're going to skip over Pasuk Yud Aleph, and we're going to go for a second to Pasuk Yud Beis. What does he say in Pasuk Yud Beis? Va'ani hinei lokachti es haLevim, and behold, I have taken the Levim, mitoich b'nei Yisrael, from among the Jews, tachas kol bechor peterechem mi b'nei Yisrael, to replace the firstborns. Remember, originally the firstborns were supposed to be the ones serving in the Mishkan, and they lost that opportunity, and the Levim replaced them. And therefore he says, v'hoyu li haLevim, and the Levim will be for me. Let's have a look at Pasuk Tes. pop back to Pasuk Tes. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but just to give you context. Pasuk Tes said the same thing pretty much. Look what it said. You should place you should dedicate the Levim to Aaron and his sons. Nesunim heimoloi. They should be given to him, me'eis b'nei Yisrael, from amongst the Jewish people. So, looks like we have two psukim saying very similar things. Hang on a second. Wait till you see what Rashi says. Look at Rashi Tes. Rashi on Tes. Second Rashi. What is me'eis b'nei Yisrael? Look what he says. Me'eis b'nei Yisrael kamoi mitoich b'nei Yisrael. Okay, so if you thought that the two psukim were similar, there you have it. They are definitely similar. He says that the word me'eis, from amongst the Jewish people, is akin to when it's going to say in 3 psukim time, mitoich, from amongst the Jewish people. But look what he says. Kloimar, that means to say, mishar kol ha'eda nivdelu lekach b'gzeras hamokim. That they were separated from the rest of the people on Hashem's decree. And what were they separated for? They were then given to the Kohanim. But we want to focus, why does Rashi say this? If you had read the Pasuk and you had not read Rashi, this is what you would have read. You would have read in the previous Pasuk, he told us that every single Jew is supposed to technically work in the Mishkan, but they don't. The Levim are their representatives. That's what Rashi told us in Pasuk Ches. Next Pasuk, Me'eis b'nei Yisrael, you should give the Levim to Aaron and his sons from the Jews. What does that sound like? What does it sound like? It sounds like you should give the Levim from the Jews as their representatives. That's what it sounds like, right? Like when you give a gift, you say, this gift came me'eis so-and-so. The gift came from these people. So again, in Pasuk Ches, you told me that what's happening over here is the Jews are appointing the Levim as their shluchim, their representatives in the Mishkan. And then in the next pasuk you say, give the Levim to Aaron and his sons, me'eis, from the Jews. The logical way it should have flowed is, give the Levim to Aaron because the Jews want you to. It's their representation. Rashi doesn't say that. He says, no. Me'eis actually means separate them from the Jews. Look what he said. Kloima mishar kol ha'eda nivdelu. That's not apparently pshat. That doesn't seem to be the simple explanation. The simple explanation is the Levim come from the Jews as their representatives in the Mishkan. Why is Rashi looking for what appears to be a non-literal explanation? That me'eis means to be separated from. Which again is a double question, because look at the next point. Question number 6. On Pasuk Yud Beis, look at what Rashi says on the words Mitoich b'nei Yisrael. What does he say? Mitoich b'nei Yisrael. Now, what did Rashi say in Pasuk Tes? That me'eis is like Mitoich. Right? That's what he said. That from the Jews is similar to saying from within the Jews. So you're going to anticipate now that Rashi should say the same thing, right? Because he should now say they're separated from the... Look what he says. Sheyiyu Yisrael soicherin oisan lesherus sheli. That the Jews should hire them to work for me. And so it's again a double question. In Pasuk Tes, why does Rashi take the word me'eis and give us what appears to be a non-literal translation? Instead of just saying the Jews hired them to represent them, no, there Rashi says they were separated from the Jews for a role. Now, when it comes to this actual word, what does it say? It says, me'eis means from within the Jewish people, in other words, hired by them to work for them. Doesn't seem to make sense. Why is Rashi changing tack over here? Oops, sorry about that. Okay. Next question. I know there's a lot of questions. Next question. Flip back for a second to Pasuk Tes. Pasuk Tes. Rashi says, on the first Rashi of Pasuk Tes, Nesunim heima loi. They, the Levim, are given to him. Rashi says one word. Given, le'ezra, for help. Didn't you say that already? Rashi, didn't you tell us that already all the way back in Pasuk Vav? In Pasuk Vav you said the Levim are Messiah Moisam, that they help them. So why now are you repeating LeEzra to help them? What?
If the Chumash repeats, so you have to explain why the Chumash repeats.
Why the Chumash repeats? The Chumash does not repeat. The Chumash uses new words. Nesunim heimaloi is new words. So if anything, you should be telling me that the Chumash repeating the words Nesunim heimaloi should be to tell me something I don't already know, because you're telling me new words. And what does Rashi do? He tells us what I already know. LeEzra. Which brings us to question number 8. If Rashi wants to explain the word loi, nesunim hema loi, loi means LeEzra, to help him. Why did Rashi include nesunim hema in the Dibur HaMaschil? One of the rules we have about Rashi is that he won't include something in the heading unless it's relevant to what he wants to explain. Now he's only explaining one word, LeEzra. And the most logical word to associate with LeEzra is the word loi. So why include the words Nesunim Hema in the heading? And question number 9, if you page ahead, we're not going to page ahead, but if you page ahead to Parashas Ba'aloischa, which is in 2 parashas time, there it uses the exact same expression as it does here. Nesunim Hema loi, like it does here in Pasuk Tes. Nesunim they are given, Nesunim they are given again. And there Rashi says, you know why it uses a double expression? Because it wants to tell us that they have 2 roles. One role is the assembly and dismantling of the Mishkan and carrying the pieces of the Mishkan through the desert. And the other role is to produce music and song in the Mishkan. So why did Rashi only answer and deal with that in Ba'aloischa? He should have dealt with it here. Nesunim. The first time Rashi generally addresses an issue, the first time it arises. So this is the first time we sing this double lashon, this double expression. This is where he should tell us. Nesunim means that they have 2 different roles. One role is carrying and dismantling, and the other role is producing music. Okay, let's recap. 9 questions we have to tackle over here. And you know what's going to be beautiful about this? 1 answer. That's when you know you're dealing with real wisdom. 1 answer that will resolve all 9 questions. Okay, so what's the 9 questions? Let's review. Question number 1 was, how come it is that when Rashi introduces the word mishmeres in Pasuk Zayin, he does not translate it literally as guarding. Instead, he specifically translates it as appointment, which led us to question 2. If Rashi feels that the word mishmeres means appointment, why did he not tell us that in chapter 1 when it came up the first time? Question 3, there seems to be a contradiction, because on the one hand in Pasuk Vav, Rashi says that the role of the Levim is a supportive role to the Kohanim, but in Pasuk Ches, he says that the role of the Levim is a supportive role to the whole of Israel. So which one is it? Which led us to question number 4. If the words B'nai Yisrael are what led Rashi to believe that the Levim represent the whole Jewish people, the more logical place to have raised that would have been in the preceding Pasuk Zayin, when it said that they have to service Kol Ha'eda, the whole people. Question number 5. How come it is in Pasuk Tes that Rashi translates the word Me'es as separated from the people, instead of just going with a simple logic, which is coming from the people to represent them? Which led us to question 6, that in Pasuk Yud Beis, he suddenly changes and says, actually, mitoich means from the people hired by them. Well, now that really confuses us. The first time you tell me it means separated from the people. The next time you tell me it means coming from the people as their contribution. Question number 7, how come in Pasuk Tes he says that they have to be LeEzra to help? We've already established that earlier in Pasuk Vav. That led us to question number 8. Why does he include the words Nesunim Hema in the Dibur HaMaschil, in the heading? And last question, how come he does not translate the words Nesunim, doesn't even comment on the double expression Nesunim, where we now know that later on in Parashas Ba'aloischa he will address it, and he'll say it refers to 2 different roles that they play, the role of assembling or carrying the Mishkan and the role of producing song. So, like I said, the Rebbe in his brilliance answers this all in a single answer. What's the single answer? Well, if you know what bothers Rashi, you'll understand what Rashi is trying to achieve. Here's what bothers Rashi. Pasuk Zayin and Pasuk Ches. That's what's bothering Rashi. This is what promotes him to go off and explain all of the things he explains. What is the problem with Pasuk Zayin and Pasuk Ches? You know what the problem is? They are near identical. And the Torah doesn't repeat things just for fun. They are near identical. Let's read them let's contrast them. Pasuk Zayin. V'shamruas mishmartoi. You should guard the guarding or undertake the appointment. Ve'es mishmeres kol ha'eda, as well as the appointment or the guarding of the whole people. Where does this apply? Lifnei oil moed. What do you have to do? Lavi des avodas Mishkan. Now, if we had the two psukim alongside each other and we could cross out, so to speak, the common phrases, let's do that first. So the first common phrase is Lavi des avodas Mishkan, because that's in both psukim verbatim. So that's direct repetition. V'shamru is common to both psukim, right? V'shamru, to guard or to accept the appointment, is common to both. In the first pasuk it says mishmartoi without specifying what it is, but then later on it says lifnei oil moyed, that it's something to do with the Mishkan. And in the second pasuk Ches it says v'shamru es kol klei oil moyed. So it sounds like it's a little bit more nuanced. The vessels of the Mishkan. So there's our first difference. And the other thing which is almost identical is that the one says mishmeres kol ha'eda, that it's the guarding of the whole community, and the other one says es mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, the guarding of the Jewish people. So Rashi looks at this and he says, I don't get it. Why do we need two psukim over here? Just say very simply, put the two psukim together and read it like this, or something like this. V'shamru es mishmartoi v'es mishmeres klei oihel moyed v'es mishmeres b'nei Yisrael avodas hamishkan, or something like that. That basically rolls it all into one. This is what catches Rashi's attention. Two psukim, near identical, but there's a nuanced difference, and everything hinges on that nuanced difference. And so what Rashi tells us is you have to know that the Levim have two primary areas of service in the Mishkan. One primary area of service has a few subcategories, and the other primary area of service is a singular role. So, the primary area that has subcategories is what we call the avodah chiyuvis, the proactive, positive engagement that the Leviim have to do with the Mishkan. And under that category are a few things. They have to be the ones to carry the parts of the Mishkan when they travel in the desert. That is chiyuvis. That's something positive. Avodah chiyuvis. It's a positive thing that you've got to do proactively. When you travel from point A to B, you, the Leviim, carry all the pieces of the Mishkan. Another one is Hakomas HaMishkan. When you arrive at wherever your destination is, they are the ones who have to assemble the Mishkan. That's chiyuvi. That's something positive. When it's time to go to the next place, it's your job to dismantle the Mishkan. Part of the chiyuvi, proactive thing that you've got to do. And lastly, shir. You have to produce music and song as part of the service in the Mishkan. That is chiyuvi. That's what you've got to do positively. Then there's one kind of avodah that the Leviim have to do, which is avodah shlilis, a negative avodah. What's that? The avodah of avoidance, prevention. That's just one role. Prevent the wrong people coming into the Mishkan. So Rashi says we've got two categories over here. One category is the proactive things that a Levi does. Why? Because that's what a Levi should do. And then you've got the preventative things that a Levi has to do. Why? Because of the things other people should not do. It's quite a significant difference, right? One is the role that I have as a Levi because I'm a Levi. And the other is the role that I have as a Levi because everybody else doesn't know how to behave themselves. And they might trespass into the Mishkan. So it's not something that fulfills me as a person. It's not something that makes me do much shlichus. It's something that is a necessary component of running the Mishkan to keep everybody else safe. Those are the two components, and Rashi identifies that the two of them are described in these two psukim. So let's read the two psukim again now. In order to read the two psukim, we've actually got to go back for a second to Vav. So let's just look at Vav, it will help us. So Pasuk Vav says, Ha-kreves matei Levi va-mato oiso lifnei Aaron ha-kohen v'shersu oisoi. There you've got it. The first thing that you've got to tell the Levim is, bring them in front of Aaron that they should assist him. Which role is that, to assist him? Not their personal role. That's not their avoida. This is the preventative role, to assist the Kohanim that the Mishkan should run safely. It's actually the responsibility of the Kohanim, but they don't have the manpower or the time to be able to do it on their own, so therefore we're deputizing the Levim to assist them. V'shersu oisoi. What is the job you've got to do there? V'shamru es mishmartoi. There you've got to guard. Rashi on Zion, what does he say? V'shamru es mishmartoi. There you've got to guard. V'es mishmeres kol ha'ed lifnei oil moed. And you've got to represent all the people. What does it mean you've got to represent the people? Not that you are their shliach. You've got to keep the people out. I don't have to explain what kol ha'eda means, that you are now on behalf of the people. No. You've got to keep the people out of the Mishkan. Mishkan. Okay, that's obviously generic, so we don't have to focus too much on that. Let's look at the next pasuk. Now you've got a job that you've got to do. This is a job that you personally have to do. What's that job? This is your avodah. This is what it means to be a Levi. What do you have to do? You have to be involved with the pieces of the Mishkan. Klei oihel moyed. You've got to put them together and take them down and carry them around. So now we're talking about your primary role. And when we deal with your primary role, then Rashi has a question. So why the Bnei Yisrael mentioned over there? Why should we talk about the Jewish people? This is your role. In the previous pasuk, we understand why we say kol ha'eda, because we're appointing you, and that's what Rashi says specifically, minoi. It's not that you're guarding in the classic sense. We're appointing you into a position that actually is the Kohanim's position. They're the ones. That's why you'll notice in that Rashi, by the way, that he quotes, I'm sorry, not in that Rashi, we'll see it later, but we'll come back to that. But it's the Kohanim's role that you have now been appointed to assist them. Appointment is the vort over here, not guarding. Yes, the role is to guard, obviously. But the chap is that you're appointed to the role because it's not a technically Leviim role. It's a primarily Kohanim role that you have now been added to. And why does it say Kol Ha'ed over there? Because that is the role. Keep all of the people away from the Mishkan. So it's obvious to Rashi why the words Kol Ha'ed are there, and he doesn't have to explain them. But when it comes to the next pasuk, and now we're dealing with your proactive role, Leviim, you have to carry the Mishkan, build the Mishkan, dismantle the Mishkan, sing in the Mishkan, accompany the service. Why there does it say Bnei Yisrael? That's not the job of Bnei Yisrael to do those things. That's the job of you, the Levi. So on that pasuk, Rashi says, yes, you are boim tachteim b'shlichusam. Actually, they should all be doing these things. The whole nation should be dismantling, carrying, schlepping, singing, etc. But when we say Bnei Yisrael, we don't mean that they should actually physically do the work. What we mean is that you should represent them. With that in mind, let's have a look at the next piece, Me'es. So what did Rashi say? Now let's read, in order to do this, let's read all the psukim in one long shot, one long continuum, so that it all starts to fall into place. So here's how it goes. Number one, appoint the Levim to a new role as assistants to the Kohanim to make sure nobody comes in. How does that role work? They are appointed to a position to to guard all of the people so that they don't come into the Ohel Moed, Lavoidas Avoidas HaMishkan, in order that the service in the Mishkan can go as it should. That's instruction 1, category 1. Now category 2, V'shomres kol kalei Ohel Moed, and besides that, the primary role of the Leviim is that they should look after. And that's their role, to look after the pieces of the Mishkan, that they should all be put away properly and transported safely and put together again. Ves mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, and in that role you will represent, Rashi says, you will represent the Jewish people, because by rights they should have all done this work themselves, but now they are appointing you, and that's why Rashi specifically says you get meiser for this. They actually pay you for the job. They're actually going to not only give you their representation, but they're going to support you so that you are their representatives. So you're not just kind of volunteers, you're actually their hired help. L'avodas HaMishkan, to serve in the Mishkan. Now he goes back. Goes back to the first point. You give the Levim to Aaron and his sons to do what? Nesunim heimaloi, they're given to him le'ezra, to help him, because we switched before and we went on to the second role that they have, which is working in the Mishkan itself and representing the Jews. Now we've got to go back and say again le'ezra. Here in this pasuk we're going back to the assistance that they give to Aaron and his sons. And therefore, because we're talking about the assistance to Aaron and his sons, we have to translate Me'es B'nei Yisrael not as given as the representatives of the Jews, because we're not talking about the Jews in this pasuk. We're talking about the role that they have to secure the complex of the Mishkan. In that sense, they are nivdal. They are separate from everybody else. Everybody else is not allowed into the Mishkan. They have a special role to be in the Mishkan, and their role is not in that particular role on behalf of the Jews, but rather as distinct from the Jews. We'll be the bouncers. We'll make sure that you don't come into the Mishkan. Whereas in Pasuk Yud Beis, everything changes. How do we know everything changes? Because there is a gap in the Torah at that point in time. You'll see it in the Chumash represented by the letter Pei. The letter Pei or the letter Samach in a Chumash is to tell you the design of the parasha, how the parasha is written in the Torah. It's either a parasha psucha or a parasha stuma. It depends if it ends at the end of a line, the middle of a line, if there's an open space at the end, or if there's letters after the gap. Okay, we're not getting into the laws of a Sefer Torah over here, but either way you look at it, it means that a particular parasha has ended and now we're starting a new parasha. What's the new parasha we're starting? New topic, because you've just given me all the details. You told me in general that there are 2 roles for the Leviim, but now you've given me the details of role number 1. Now we can talk about the details of role number 2, which is I've taken the Leviim out of the Jews. What does Rashi say mitoich means? Me'es. The Jews put them forward. The Jews volunteered them. The Jews said, these will be our representatives. In this pasuk, that makes a lot of sense, because this pasuk is talking about how they are going to represent the Jews and how they're going to serve tachas kol bechor. They're going to replace the firstborns, which only sharpens the thought that we had before. That they'll represent the Jewish people, because actually the Jews should have had representatives from every one of their families. The firstborn of every one of their families should have been serving in the Mishkan. But it was taken away from them at the time of the Egel HaZahav, because the firstborn succumbed to the sin and the tribe of Levi did not. So in context now, we understand why the Jews are going to be represented by Levi, because they can no longer send their own family representative. So in this context, the word mitoich actually means on behalf of. Ironically, because the word mitoich sounded more like what? The word mitoich sounded more like from within. Now we have the word mitoich meaning from and on behalf of, because that's the context. So don't get caught up in the fact that Rashi said me'es in the previous pasuk tes means mitoich, and now here he's saying mitoich means me'es. Don't worry about that. It is contextual. When the context lends itself a particular way, then it makes sense to translate a particular way. In the context of saying the Kohanim are going to be assisted by the Leviim, the word me'es makes sense to say they will be removed from the rest of the Jewish nation to become the buffer between them and the Mishkan. Over here, when it's talking about the Jews representing themselves via the Leviim, suddenly the word mitoich makes sense to mean on behalf of. Incidentally, that also helps us to understand why Rashi emphasizes the word nisunim hema, and he does not translate the words nisunim. In Parashas Bahaloischa, what's Rashi talking about? The role that the Leviim have, their proactive role, their chiyuvi role, which is all the things under the category of masa, carrying, dismantling, assembling the Mishkan, and their other proactive role, which is shir, the production of song and music. But here, in this context, when the Torah said nisunim, it's talking about their role vis-a-vis the Kohanim, how they are handed over to the Kohanim as their assistants. There would be no reason here to think that the double expression means two different roles, because they only have one role. So what does nisunim mean? Le'ezra. It means that they're here to help. Not like you would think that they're here to have various kinds of individual personal Levi roles. That's not this part. That's something that will be discussed later. So isn't it incredible how you take one shift of perspective and it settles all of our questions? We now no longer have the question about minoi. Why did he have to say appointment? Because it makes sense to us that being appointed into a role that actually is reserved for the Kohanim. That also explains why earlier on, when the Leviim are first introduced into their position, Rashi doesn't have to translate the word mishmeres at all, because there's no reason to think it means anything else than to guard your responsibilities. We can also understand now why we don't have a conflict that on the one hand Rashi is saying they represent the Kohanim and on the other they represent the Jews, because it's both. In one role they represent the Kohanim to protect the Mishkan and make sure nobody comes in. By the way, that's why the word Kol Ha'eda belongs there. And in the other role they represent the whole Jewish people as their emissaries inside the Mishkan, which is why Bnei Yisrael belongs there. We've also explained how the two meanings of me'es and mitoich, although at first they seem to be complete contradictions, because we said me'es means to be separated from, mitoich means to come from, we've settled that. Because when you're talking about their role as the security guards of the Mishkan, then we say they're separated from everybody else. When you're talking in their role as replacing the firstborns and representing the Jews in the Mishkan, then the word mitoich actually means on their behalf. And that also, of course, helped us settle the issues of the words, nisunim, and why he doesn't address the double expression. So the Rebbe says, what could we learn from this? There's got to be a lesson, right? What could we learn from this? And he says a magnificent thing. The Rambam writes that not only the tribe of Lavi, but any person who volunteers to dedicate themselves to Hashem, you can become the highest level of absolute holiness and dedication to Hashem without any question. So a person will say, who, me? I know there's some people who are very knowledgeable, there's some people who are very frum, some people who are very spiritual, very pious. Those are the kind of people who, in spite of the fact that they may not have the Levi pedigree, they can come close to Hashem, they can get to Kodesh HaKadoshim, they can become the most amazing people in the world. Me? I barely know how to read Hebrew. If you knew the things that I do wrong, if you understood how off the mark I can't come and be Kodesh Kadoshim. So what does Rashi say over here? He says that the whole Jewish people, let's read it again, because the words are actually very powerful when you read them. In Pasuk Ches, the Rashi of Pasuk says, Pasuk Ches, Shekulon hoyu zkukin letzorchei hamikdash. Every Jew was needed to be servicing the Mishkan. Every single Jew. Except what? Things went a bit awry, and therefore they had to appoint the Leviim on their behalf. Now, if I am an emissary, if I represent somebody, I'm on their behalf, effectively what I'm saying is, I'm doing a role that they could do. If you can't do something yourself, you can't appoint a shliach to do it on your behalf. For those people who are up to date in Rambam, just the other day, that's what we were learning. Hilchas shluchim v'shutfin, that there's certain people who cannot appoint a shliach. A minor cannot appoint a shliach. You're not of the age of your own responsibility, so you cannot appoint somebody to be your representative, your shliach. Likewise, if a person, for whatever reason, was unable to do a particular mitzvah, you can't appoint somebody else as a shliach to do a mitzvah for you, whatever they might be. So if the Leviim are the shluchim of the whole Jewish nation in the Mishkan, what does that tell you? That every single Jew fundamentally, intrinsically, is capable of serving in the Mishkan. There's just technical reasons why it's not actually happening. Therefore, when the Rambam tells us that in spite of your lack of pedigree, you might not be from the tribe of Levi, every person who dedicates themselves and volunteers themselves to be completely committed to Hashem in the way of the Levi, you become sanctified to the highest level. There's nobody within the community who can shirk and say, it didn't mean me, because I'm not bright enough, smart enough, learned enough, holy enough, from enough. What's the expression? Kulon hayu skukin letzorche hamikdash. Every single one of us is needed in the service of the mikdash. Every single one of us could have been represented by a Levi in the service in the Mishkan. And therefore every single one of us can create that closeness between us and Hashem as if in the Mishkan, without exception.